With Pocono in the books and the Brickyard in the horizon, Brian and I are in to talk all things Great American Getaway 400, how we did, what went well, what didn't go so well, as well as turn our attention to the Brickyard, a race we haven't ran in these version of these cars, and NASCAR hasn't been to in some time, and curious to see how that all pans out. We'll figure out where the betting value is and why Brian's a doofus for betting Tyler Reddick once again. All of that and more on today's Angle of Pursuit podcast.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining did it again. We had a week. I don't know what to tell you. Things are going good. We hated the betting board. I was texting you Saturday night. I was like, I hate this betting board. It's disgusting. I can't find anything I like. I cobbled together some value, and we hit some winners, my friend. Not only did we hit some winners, we had us a nice little week on DraftKings too. So
we sure did.
Let me do this. I'm gonna pull up a few things to show off because I'm very excited. First things first, let's look at some DraftKings stuff, and we'll talk about the race and how it went and what we thought. As people holding Ryan Blaneys tickets, I was very happy to see the merry-go-round happen a few times and the race just end. I thought for sure some shenanigans was coming, a caution was coming. Meaningless cars battling for 27th were gonna mess up the race, and but nope, we got to cash a nice ticket. So let's talk DraftKings. Let's talk about how that went because we had a nice week over there too. So built a cash lineup on Sunday morning, right? But like probably 10 minutes before the race. I'm gonna start playing more cash games. Ryan Stevens pointed out on Twitter when the race about how like nobody wants to play cash. And I'm like, these are the same people that want to parlay everything. $5 in, $500 million out. That's what they want. Cash is great, guys, especially if you're just build a comfy lineup. You don't have to get unique. You don't have to get crazy. And you just kind of build that bankroll. Obviously, we'll be firing darts and GPPs and trying to, take down big prizes. But if you want to keep that bankroll churning in the background so you're not getting to goose eggs and becoming the deposit king, that's a great way to go. So this little
and right on line with what Kyle just said there. We just had a quick discussion before jumping on here about the progression of my personal betting style over the last year plus, because I previously was a little bit enamored with parlays and stuff like that, and now I'm out here dropping couple Benjamins on single bet matchups and stuff like that, just simply because of what Kyle said. And the same goes for DFS. Like when you play cash, it removes a lot of the anomalies that can happen and just the weirdness of a race. And all you got to do is just have a okay day or lineup, and you're probably going to be in the money.
Yep. So as you see, Gilliland didn't finish the race. Cindric was Austin Cindric.
Yep.
But look, Gilliland 72%, Bubba Wallace was 90%, Kyle Larson, but then the Byron, was fine. Buescher was fine, and it got me there. That's all I needed. Let's talk the fun stuff though. So we had we had a similar version of that lineup here where we went Larson, Byron, Keselowski instead of Buescher, Wallace, Cindric, and then we went Hemrick. It was fine. It wasn't anything to write home about, but it cashed, which is really good. Let's see, where was our biggest? Oh, there's the scores. That's why I was like, there's something missing here.
I'm still upset about the RFK guys, by the way.
Yeah. Like they were, I don't know. The Keselowski is fine. Yeah. And Buescher was fine. They could have been better for sure, but they were both really, really solid. This lineup stunk. Truex, Truex, did he ever he felt like he was kind of like a borderline top 5 car most of the day, but
Yeah,
he
it was.
never showed that speed and that we had so much excitement going into the race.
Yeah, it's almost as if I think it was Steve Letarte that said it sometime that late stage 2 that whatever happened to the track after the rains, it changed maybe the dynamics of why Truex's car was so much faster than everybody else's in practice because as you see here, he only had 5 fastest laps and that was when he was out front as well where he led 14 laps and
Yeah.
you kind of saw it there where Denny was just kind of riding around behind him. And it looked as if Denny could have driven up to Truex any moment he wanted, but he let him just kind of go. And maybe Denny was saving fuel or something. But yeah, it was a little disappointing because, I thought he had the best car. Most people thought he had the best car. He was lucky, I think, to stay where he did. And that was just based on track position.
Yeah, Denny, I think Denny we pretty clearly had the best car. I think if that race goes another 15, 20 laps, he catches Blaney. Blaney did a really smart strategy move and then obviously had a really good rocket ship himself. Like he had a really, really fast car. And when he got to the front, he was able to push it. And when the field started making up ground on him, I'm like, oh God, here we go. Who's going to catch him? But he was clearly saving because he was able to throw it on the gas a little bit more and pull away again. So by the end, he had the speed. He had a car dialed in. That thing was awesome. So shouts to a 10% Ryan Blaney. No one wanted to play him at starting 8th. And he won. He was awesome.
Yeah, and we talked about him and we said, like, when he unloads fast and he's comfortable in his car, he's a guy that you kind of want to have exposure to out betting market, DFS, because when he has speed, he showed it last year in the playoffs, and we've seen it this year. When that car is hooked up, Blaney is one of the best drivers in the sport right now. And I think it's fair to maybe look at this in the grand scheme of things and say that maybe Ryan Blaney should be back up there as one of the championship favorites moving forward because they have really stepped up their game since the first quarter of the season.
Yeah, and I want to look at odds before we get out of here because I think you bring up a valid point. I think his number is getting short. So
Yeah.
if you want some obviously 2 wins in 5 races will do that. But this was our lineup. This lineup absolutely crushed. Maybe we pivot off. I think the optimal lineup was instead of Busher, this was Bubba, and then I think instead of Cindric, that went up to somebody I forget. But this got 18th in the $3. Let's see how many people were in this thing. $3, 3 max, 2,000, over 2,000 because I don't think I was in last place, but yeah. So this lineup absolutely crushed. Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Chris Buescher,
Logano, dang it.
Austin Cindric, Justin Haley, the Fords plus Haley and Hamlin. So, yeah, this was a really, really good week. $50 off a $3 entry. It felt good. It felt good. It felt like we were seeing things well. We had a good week. This is our green, white, checkered newsletter that you can subscribe to for absolutely free. Blaney was one of my write-ups. Bubba obviously chalky, but worthwhile. And then Byron, whatever. Brian had Keselowski and Haley, and then the Truex shenanigans.
Justin Haley, man, the gift that keeps on giving.
He really does.
Keeps the tires on it and stays in there.
Forward. Let's talk betting card because your boy hit a winner, Ryan Blaneys, 14-1. Added it in my betting card, so you can go down and check this out every single week. See our full bets. See where the things went right, what they went wrong. Yeah. So Blaneys, 14-1, put a unit on it, cashed it, loved it. He looked great. He seemed to not be priced where he should have been given how good he looked and kind of the optimism. And Wormy we were talking about it a little bit, I think, when he was doing his pre-race poll, and it's a great way to kind of finish off your betting card and get your head right for firing off those last bets. Cause the discussions in there kind of got me going in the right way. And I was like, oh, Ryan Blaneys, I love that. Tyler Reddick was not the play, but William Byron top 5. The steam kind of came in on him. Some of the markets had moved, but his top 5 number was decent. His top Chevy number was decent,
Yeah, I think
and
his top Chevy was like plus 325.
yeah, so it was like all made sense. And then I fired on Blaney to top Ford because I was like, well, maybe Truex or Hamlin smoked the field, and Blaney still has a really good day, and I can cash that too. So yeah, so 2 to 1, 4 units, boom, hit the outright. Bubba top 10. Mad at myself for not firing on the Bubba versus KFB. I felt really good, and then I didn't end up getting there, so that's okay. But really nice week. A lot of the pre practice and qualifying stuff. Gibbs was a good car until he had his issues, and then he was out of there. Logano was fighting for the front, and if Blaney didn't have that strong day, I think that top 4 bet's solid.
F. Logano. Gosh dang
Yeah,
it.
I know you don't like him, but I think it was a good bet, and I'm happy to made it, and I would make it again.
Yeah, I just had a large side on Chris Buescher at plus money over Joey Logano. And when you look at the two cars metrics wise, it wasn't close. Buescher had the
Yep.
better car, and yeah, it just kind of stinks him cashing by using his damn brain power to
That's what he does, though. That's his thing. Like at this point, he is a figure out a way to get to the front and then figure out a way to make it stick kind of driver. He's not going to blow you away with a rocket ship. He's not going to, he's just going to be like, all right, how do I mathematically put my car where I need it to be and hold it there? And he does it.
Yeah.
So you had the Bubba top 10. That was nice. You had Blaney over Chase, which, yeah, that was a good call to fade Chase. I probably should have jumped on a little more fading of the Chase, but, you had Chastain over,
Yeah, I had Chastain over Busch, which should have cashed.
Yeah. Kyle Busch is like barely a top 30 car at this point. It's wild.
Yeah, he's sailing off into the
And
sunset
every week,
Junior.
And every week they put him like aggressively up there. I was looking at, look at the outright. Oh, look at championship odds. He's shorter odds to win the championship than Austin Cindric, who's locked into the playoff, which made
I
me
would
get
take
going.
Austin Cindric right now over Busch.
Yeah.
Like that's how bad his season is.
And then Reddick over Bell. So not the week you were looking for. Obviously you had a little more exposure outside of the show, and you actually had a Blaney ticket. So
oh yeah. It's funny because I had texted Kyle. It was somewhat after, like in the middle of stage 1, I believe it was, and I was like, "Hey, Ryan Blaneys is still 14-1 live."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh yeah, no, I just hit that." And he said, "Oh, I already have that." And so, I mean, that's good. And I had actually already had exposure at 18 on Blaney pre-practice and qualifying, and for me to add somebody at a shorter number is not normal. So I felt pretty strongly early on, like his car looked really good. And of course, obviously, like hindsight, Pocono is such a difficult track to bet. Like, I kind of knew that going in, but there are just so many things that could go wrong for guys that they have a great car, but strategy, they get screwed. So,
Yep.
gotta keep that in mind.
And as you can see, Brian is having a strong season despite not a great week, getting well into the green, and I'm almost out of the hole that I dug myself. So feeling really good. Obviously, we get to turn our attention to Brickyard this week. Anything else Pocono you want to hit on, Brian? I know it was a little underwhelming for some people. Obviously, if you had the right cars in your lineups, if you had the right cars on your betting card, you had a fun week. You got to cash some tickets, but I know it was a lot of ring around the rosy, old school NASCAR, just like laps. But I enjoyed the race.
I was just going to say, for somebody who was, say, fairly new to the sport, like newer than us, it was probably really boring, but knowing the strategy part of Pocono, I was actually fully entertained about what I was watching, because you saw guys on different pitch strategies and you were wondering like, oh, is this guy going to be able to undercut him enough to, say, leapfrog this guy and vice versa? So I thought the race was really intriguing. Of course, we got the shenanigans kind of late with a couple of, bunched up cautions, which was kind of expected. But was actually satisfied with the fact that we did go green for the last, it was like 30 laps or 20 something laps.
Yeah, I know it was kind of boring because Blaney got out to the front and pushed that
Yeah, he
lead and
just
then
led
let
the
it
lap.
come back. But there was interesting racing behind him for other spots and people
Yeah.
fighting for different things. And
I mean, I will say
obviously-
though too, like, say we didn't have stage break cautions, if there's a legit shot at Pocono, somebody would have ran away and won by friggin' 15, 20 seconds.
yeah,
So
Hamlin probably wins,
yeah, that's what I mean.
but
So I mean,
because of the
you can
breaks
complain
and
about the stage
because
break cautions, but that eliminates that.
yeah, but that gave Blaney a chance to find. Okay, I'm not going to catch Denny purely. So how do I beat Denny? And he made
Exactly.
a smart move for stage 2. Denny stayed out to get the playoff point. Blaney wins the race. Denny gets second.
My one closing thought on the race though is that I'm going to repeat what I said last week. Tires mean absolutely jack shit because
So
2 tires were the strategy.
yeah,
And the fact that you can basically run half a race on a set of lefts is probably not a good omen for the sport. Like we need tire wear to make it to where guys have to manage tires and not just based on pure speed, in my opinion.
yeah. So that was one of my big takeaways, and we'll talk about the news from today before we dive into Brickyard and odds. My other thing is Alex Bowman looks to be back. He I don't know that he's ever going to be the top Hendrick guy or even be a guy that really contends for championships, but he could be a fringe top 4 guy. He can be a guy that wins races. He could be a guy that's top 5 a lot of weeks, being really impressive, and winning Chicago and then backing it up with a strong finish at Pocono was really, really good to see.
Yeah.
And between the injuries and the missed time and whatever the case may be, he looks like he's back in form. So good. I feel much, much better about him this week and going forward. But his odds are obviously going to be drastically different. We're going to have to figure out, are they getting squished too much, or is there still potential value? So
Yeah.
let me do something really quick because NASCAR did make an announcement, and I don't, I'm not deep enough in the game to know if it actually means anything.
We're talking about tires again,
We're
folks,
talking about tires again, folks.
and tire compounds.
So upcoming races at Richmond Raceway will have 2 Goodyear tire choices to be available for teams: a softer option, more short-term grip, and then a baseline prime that provides more lasting ride. So I don't hate this. NASCAR clearly wants to become like F1 because they have dreams of becoming F1. But no, I does this add a new layer of strategy, or does this ultimately put all the field on one tire anyways and doesn't really mean anything? Or
Well, I mean, the one thing that sucks, like you're going to hear the majority of people complaining are going to come from our community, the bettors, because this is going to make betting that race not something I'm going to be too exposed to because you have no idea how this is going to affect the field. I will say that the softer option tire will give more people a shot late in the race because you're going to have guys that are running in the back of the field or the mid pack that are probably going to pit. Say we got 20 laps to go, 25 laps. They're going to put on this soft tire expecting to pick up, a half a second, maybe difference on guys who are on older tires. But is it really going to make a difference? Like, are you going to see the guys up front pitting to take the soft compound?
no, it's going to be the guys that are
question.
a clear tick off, taking a shot to try and get to the front.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's funny because you mentioned tire wear doesn't matter, and I think from a better perspective, I love it. From a viewership perspective, I want to eliminate as many nonsensical things happening. I don't want to be betting somebody, having them be the best car all day, and randomness blowing a tire, and then they finish 33rd but based on a tire going out that they kind of. So from a better perspective, I want to eliminate randomness, but from a fan viewing excitement, I think tire wear should matter. I think this is kind of interesting to give drivers a chance to make something, make some strategy calls and see if they can make moves, even if it's, going from top 10 to top 5, potentially top manufacturer, whatever the case may be. So I think it's interesting. I think NASCAR is trying some stuff, which I appreciate. Other sports are very afraid of change and making even gambles. Also, like, just I think this sport is growing. Like, Ryan Blaney was on like Good Morning America or some shit before winning the race. He was at the ESPYs. Like, NASCAR is trying to claim its spot within like pop culture and stuff, and maybe some people that have been around for a long time don't love that, but for the health of the sport long term, and for our options at betting windows, and for opportunities playing DraftKings and having a big prize pool, these are all great things.
Oh, for sure. And it's something that we've been hearkening on for the last year plus, at least, just from the NASCAR betting community, is that the sport is great. And also, too, to get it exposure, it needs to do stuff outside the box. So, I applaud them for doing this. I applaud all the decisions they've actually made when it comes to the rain since the Coke 600. Everything after that has been fantastic. So,
Yeah, and they do make decisions based upon Indy, which is a little frustrating, but I also understand the idea of building up both of those sports, especially when they're doing the double NBC thing. Like, NBC is not going to bite its own leg off, even if it's
oh
IndyCar versus
no,
NASCAR.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely not.
so,
And I'm gonna say this is gross for me to talk about. Like, this is why I'm excited for Prime coming into the sport and Turner Sports, because the more networks you have, the more of a battle it's going to be from a network perspective to put on a better show. And so when
yeah.
you have more people in just involved with it, one station is not going to want to put on a bad product. They're going to have to improve on what they're already providing.
Yeah. All right, let's turn our attention. Let's talk this week and let's talk some odds. Like I mentioned, we're going to the Brickyard. It's the first time in a long time.
2000,
Interesting.
I believe, was the last race.
Yeah. So a lot of these guys have either just not ran it, or, and trying to figure out how to compare it, because it's not a true oval, but it's oval adjacent. I don't know.
Yeah, apparently, so the closest comps that I've seen from a bunch of people, wintherace.info, again, fantastic information. iFantasy Race. Pocono is probably the closest type of track that we're going to get to Indy, with one of the turns actually being modeled after Indy. So consider Pocono your lead up into who to expect to be good. And as you can tell, the sports books took note of who was fast
Yeah.
at Pocono.
Yeah. Denny Hamlin, 375. I've seen him at 4-1. You get him at 450. I'm really tempted to fire on that, because it seems like a good track for him. And I know it's not fun to bet that, but if Hamlin comes out and looks good in practice, even if he doesn't qualify amazingly, that could be 350, 220, 275. Like, we could see something dumb this week.
Yeah.
Beyond him, Kyle Larson, Brad Keselowski, last week's winner Ryan Blaney, and Chase Elliott, all inside 10-1. I did find a 12 on Elliott. I saw lines moving at other books. I jumped on it, and we'll see if it ends up working out. Maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. But when I see the market dictating it move it to several shops and I can find a good number, I tend to just grab the value and figure it out later. So I did grab a personal 12. I don't think that exists anymore. I think 10 is probably the best you're going to do.
Not. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. 10. You're right.
Yeah.
Just updated. He was sitting at 12. FanDuel has him at 11.
FanDuel has them at 11. So
Yeah.
shouts to
Not terrible.
FanDuel, by the way. I don't know if something changed there or what happened, but last probably month and a half, they've had odds early. They've been pushing NASCAR stuff. I don't know if Jim Sonis is able to help kind of from the inside what's going on there, but
True.
something's happening because they've had odds, at least in the outright market. They've had placings earlier than DraftKings, earlier than some other books. So shouts to them just in general. But I guess, are you getting involved inside 10-1, or you could take the 11 on Chase? That's fine. Or at this point, are you just kind of letting these numbers float where they float and looking for longer shots before practice and qualifying?
Yeah, like obviously I'm gonna stick to my guns. We haven't even gotten to the range yet, but everyone already knows I'm gonna bet Tyler Reddick pre-practice and qualifying because I don't see that number getting longer. The dude is just a qualifying maven and he's gonna be fast. So I think you can book it that he's probably 10 or shorter post practice. That being said, everybody else, like if I'm actually shopping for numbers, I have a hard time. Oh, 13 on Reddick. That's really nice. I have a hard time getting in on these guys for a track that we haven't run since the year 2000. And we're now multiple years into this new vehicle, or 2020, sorry, 2000. But yeah, like, obviously Denny Hamlin, he should be the favorite. I think Larson's number a little bit longer than what we normally see him open at is very interesting and something that I considered last week post practice and qualifying. He was like 6 at some places, but I kind of want to see these guys unload. I got to see what we're going to practice at because we're getting a long practice session on Friday. So you're going to see a lot of guys testing. You're going to have to keep track of raw data lap times, not necessarily 5-lap averages and stuff like that, or single lap speed, because guys are going to be trying different things, so this is really a wait and see week for me. Most of my bets I think are going to be post qualifying.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like I said, I grabbed the Chase just because I thought it was an interesting number. As we get into the kind of next range, so we have, obviously Chase as long as 11. You have Truex, you have Chris Bell, you have William Byron, Tyler Reddick, and then we kind of get into Logano, Busher, and Gibbs before you get, to 20 or longer. I went over to FanDuel. I found 18. I'm betting Tyrone Gibbs. In our quest to ever have our battling Reddick versus
I like
Gibbs,
that a lot.
The battle of the ties. Brian is convinced Reddick will win soon. His performance on track certainly makes it seem like that may be coming, but the ability to shoot himself in the foot over and over and over again is very impressive. That being said, I will take the Gibbs number. He's going to win before Reddick. I'm getting 18 instead of 13, instead of 11, instead of 10, instead of whatever number you want to throw out there. I think he's been fast. I think he's been impressive. I just think he needs to learn how to close a race. Yes, he hasn't won in the NASCAR Cup car, but that is coming, and I want to be on it. So I jumped on 18-1.
Yeah, I don't hate that either. And going back to what I was saying about how this track hasn't been run on in NASCAR for quite some time, I think that levels the playing field for a guy like Gibbs, who is going up against a bunch of drivers who do have extensive experience at the Brickyard, but that was with the previous version of the car. And so, I think that helps out Ty Gibbs a lot. And we've seen it the last couple of weeks. Like there hasn't been anybody as fast as him come Saturday when we're trying to determine the field and the starting order. And so if you're going to get a number on Gibbs, you got to get it now because he's going to qualify well. He's going to be in the single digits, and post practice and qualifying, you just fade him a little bit to try to hedge your bets. Because, if you watch the pre-race poll, Wormy even talked about it. You can't bet Ty Gibbs in single digits amongst the GOATs of the sport right now. You just can't do that. But at this price, yes, you can.
And I even was texting with you. I was like, I want Ty Gibbs exposure, but I can't figure out how. And you're like, there's nothing there. If the numbers have been obliterated,
there's no value when he does.
You can't get in on it. And I was like, okay. So I ended up betting other stuff, and I ended up cashing all those tickets. So I was really happy that, sometimes you just, as much as you want to bet somebody, as much as you love what they're going to be on Sunday, gotta let it go. Just let it.
It's really hard because, like, when you see what he's able to do in practice and qualifying, and when he was running full-time Xfinity, he was clearly the best driver. And so it's not a surprise at how well he's running. But we talked about this 2 weeks ago before the Chicago Street Race. When he opened that week, it was like 14 or I think it was 16. That was a return to the odds that we liked with him, and that was a number you can get involved with. But when he's
there was like a
priced
month stretch where he was like 9 to 12.
Yeah,
And it was just like, that's too aggressive. That's I came out in practice and qualifying and looked awesome, and now I'm ready to be at that number. And if you're gonna do that ahead of time, but then we ended up getting like a 20 on him. So I think he's a good bet most weeks. I think he's shown the ability to be impressive at a lot of different track types, and if you can get the right number, I think he's worth diving into. I'm not betting him at 6 or 8 even if he's a rocket ship yet until he wins, but I'm gonna grab some pre-practice and qualifying exposure, assuming the number makes sense, and be ready for that first win because I think it is coming soon. And just a reminder with the Olympics, we get a 2-week break for NASCAR. So
I'm so sad.
Brian and I will be playing a lot of College Football 25. That being said, if there is content you would like us to make over the next couple weeks, we're gonna have a lot of time on our hands. So, like with the All-Star break, like we were happy to take it. But if there's stuff you want to see, if there's stuff that we think would be interesting, let us know. So we're talking other bets. So Reddick, you're in on. I'm in on Gibbs. We kicked around the Joey Logano thoughts. It's just that number is a little short. 16. What's the best number we can get? 16. Brian wants a 20 on him. 15.
Yeah,
I don't think we're gonna get it.
I can't get there with Logano because compared to his teammate Ryan Blaneys, he is way off. Like, yeah, he finished 5th this past weekend, but that was based off strategy. And, we joke about it, but there is nobody in the sport that I would want in my car more than Joey Logano in a race where strategy was key.
Yeah.
Now, speed-wise, it's just not there for them. The race-winning speed is not there for Logano. And so I can't get involved with him pre-practice anyways, unless it's a big number that we expect to shorten. Like, I need positive CLV on Logano.
We need like 25 to 40 most weeks. Now, if he comes out and looks incredible and he's 850, 9, are you interested in getting in on that point? Or is it like the lack of speed almost every week, even as good as he has been in some qualifying sessions?
He's got to practice. If I see speed in practice, I'm interested. But if it's the same old story we've seen out of him where he's, a round 10th place car in practice and then he just blazes the field in qualifying, to me, that's a sign I'm going to fade the shit out of him because that means over the long run, he's probably not going to be good.
So before we get to the next range, is there anybody else in here you want to hit on as potential bets or anyone you're adding to the card?
I'm going to go with a different route here, but I don't blame you. If you want to bet Martin Truex Jr. at 16, I do not hate that.
Yeah.
I mean, he became the favorite essentially post-practice and qualifying this last weekend at the most similar track to the Brickyard based on speed and stuff. And there's a possibility the same happens.
My question is there another possibility for rain? Because it feels like every single week with the stupid sport we're talking about rain on Sunday.
The few tweets I've seen about that, it's talking about how actually the weather looks nice.
On Friday, Bob Pockrussell tweet. Actually, we have a storm warning. We weren't expecting any. It was supposed to be really nice weather, but now we have tornadoes coming in to potentially move us out. Wow. 16's nice because our favorite offshore has a much, much shorter number than that.
Yeah.
Like there's a 12 on him. There's a 12. We have a 10 staring us down, so that's fun.
Oh, that's gross.
So if you want Truex, 16 is real nice.
What's really wild is the fact that FanDuel, who we used to talk a lot of crap about, to me has these guys priced correctly based on performance. Like Tyler Reddick should be shorter than Martin Truex Jr. right now.
Yeah. All right, let's talk the next range, because this is where you get in and potentially find some nice tickets come Sunday. So Bubba Wallace 30, Alex Bowman 34. That's a decent number. I know it's a little bit shorter at some other books, kind of at that like 28 or 30 mark. Been looking good. Obviously, a nice little track for him. KFB, I don't know why they keep pricing him like this. It's hilarious to me. This is like
Right.
a back marker car. It's like BJ McLeod 2.0.
Mhm.
Ross Chastain 37. I don't hate that. Indie boy Austin Cindric at 50. I don't love it, but I don't fault anyone who gets there. Then we're like Barry, who's been really good and was actually really good at Pocono before he had issues. Anything as we kind of, transition into like, even into like triple digits, like Chase Briscoe at 130, like
I don't hate
anything?
the Briscoe call. I mean, apparently he's from there. I didn't realize like he's from the area, so it's kind of a home race for him. Um, I don't know. I think we're at the point in the season with none of these guys really competing for a playoff spot. Like they're going to need a miracle. It's almost as if SHR, which is disbanding at the end of the year, they're already kind of 1 foot out the door at this point of the season. And so I don't know how much you're going to get out of that team going forward. And so I'm a little worried there. And I think the same has to be said for a Michael McDowell, who I've been talking about this every week now since the announcement that he was going to Spire. Like eventually that FRM was going to start quiet quitting the 34 and putting all of their resources into the 38. And that's kind of been the talk the last couple of weeks, that they're really pushing Todd Gilliland right now because he is their driver of the future.
And he has been good. Like he's been earning a little more attention as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, I think that we've reached that point for those guys that are transitioning teams, especially transitioning manufacturers, that it's going to be really difficult to get involved in them because of that aspect of the business.
So I'm gonna fire on Chase Briscoe at 200 to 1. I'm gonna put almost nothing on it, but 200 to 1 complete dart throw. I'm gonna take a shot.
I don't hate it. I mean, similar. I had a similar idea last week with McDowell and Gilliland, pre-practice and qualifying, expecting them to do well, and McDowell did all right in qualifying. The number shortened to like plus 150, so you got a little bit of value there. And again, on the outside looking into the playoffs, like I said, none of these guys are close, so they need a win. And
Yeah.
so these are the teams that are going to be making the aggressive calls late if they're in position to potentially steal a victory.
Yeah. Like
And we've also seen Briscoe kind of pop sometimes at like flatter tracks.
Yep, SHR is traditionally known for shorter, flatter, and like Josh Berry has been the best car in that camp by a mile, but I don't know that he should be 50 to 1 when everybody else is a lot longer than that. Like Ryan Preece is barely an Xfinity driver at this point, so I get why he's there. But like Noah Gragson's half the odds Briscoe, like those guys are
Yeah,
basically,
that
that doesn't make
yeah,
sense.
that doesn't make sense to me at all.
Gregson had a nice run for like a month, and then he's been kind of a non-factor. He started fading and all that stuff. All right, let's shift over to the Caesar Speakeasy and find some potential value. Let's talk top Chevy. If you want to avoid Denny Hamlin, this is a good place to go. So we have Larson, we have Chase, we have Byron at 380, we have Alex Bowman at 950. I don't hate that. Any of those jumping out to you?
I feel like Byron would probably be interesting. Just based on Pocono performance.
Yeah.
I mean, Bowman though too, like he showed plenty of speed.
Yeah.
Like clearly in a Hendrick car, and he had actually talked about that string of 2 races between Chicago and Pocono were his best 2 shots to win a race, and the guy goes out and he finishes top 3 in both of them. So
yeah, he's been strong and he's looked good, and it's obviously being in a Hendrick car doesn't hurt, and
Yeah, exactly.
But he's bringing a little performance, so it's nice to see. Top Ford, Brad K, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano. It's weird that Brad and Blaney are the same. That's kind of what we saw last week. I think it gives you some value on Blaney if you're interested. I think Logano at 5-1, I don't hate. Busher at 5-1, I don't hate. I don't necessarily know that I want to get involved with kind of that next range. Chase Briscoe at 70-1 to be top Ford. I'm going to put that on the card for
Oh my gosh.
silly reasons, but 70-1 is a lot is interesting enough for
Yeah.
a tiny little nibble.
Like I said, this week is going to be really hard for me to get down just because we haven't come here in a lot. None of these guys have experience.
No, so
Essentially, like you just throw out all previous.
Yeah, if you're gonna take shots because once practice and qualifying and the dust kind of settles, and it'll be nice too because we'll have practice on Friday. We can get some information. We can see how books adjust from there. We can place bets. You will find opportunity. So be looking because sometimes books don't move as aggressively as they should until the qualifying stuff happens, and then sometimes they'll overreact to qualifying too. So there's going to be opportunities. So make sure you're looking. Make sure you have your books ready to go as odds reset if they do between. And I know the last couple times we've done practice on one day and then qualifying the next, things have kind of adjusted. So be on the lookout. Brian and I will tweet out if we see any really interesting numbers, any values potentially floating around. So
and there's a possibility I'll be in Vegas again this weekend. So
and a very good possibility of that. So top Toyota Denny 120, Truex, Reddick 550, Chris Bell 550, Ty Gibbs 750.
So I was just gonna say, I feel like this is a fun market at this time of the week because when you look at qualifying, I would say this year alone, Reddick and Gibbs have been stronger than both Denny and Truex in qualifying as a whole. And so I think there's value there with both of them potentially starting ahead of Denny Hamlin and possibly looking as good or just off of Denny's speed in practice. That's going to make these numbers get more in line with the second and third place guy at Chevy at 3-1 or something.
Yeah. And with Denny being so aggressively priced early in the week.
Oh yeah, the value's now.
You get now's chance. Even Truex at 550 I think is fine.
Yeah, I could see that. But again, I'm going to go back to what I said. Like I think at this point of the season, I think Reddick and Christopher Bell for that matter should be ahead of Truex in pre-practice odds.
I think it's funny that Bell is like, even though he's the favorite to win the championship, is never priced like that week to week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he excels at the tracks that are going to matter in the playoffs, and that's kind of
true.
Because nothing in the playoffs translates to what Indy is.
That's true. That's very, very.
Maybe this is the week where you fade the shit out of Hendrick then.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about that before. Top 10 market. Let's see if there's any potential value there. Gibbs at -160, Busher -160, Bowman at +110. I don't hate that.
Yeah, it's just
a little short.
Yeah, they're so short. Like, what if he screws up in qualifying or in practice?
Yeah. What's his top 5 number? FanDuel 470. They really squeeze us in these placing markets. I don't think there's ever value there. Yeah, 470 is pretty nice when he's 350 at Caesars.
I was just gonna say, what about your boy Chase Briscoe? If you're gonna throw like darts, home run darts.
Briscoe, let's see. Briscoe is 25-1 to top 5 and 5-1 to top 10. Is 5-1 getting paid out enough?
On the top 10, I think so. But again, you have to hope that okay, think about it this way. How much shorter can that number get? Like if he goes out and he practices, he puts together a top 10 practice and he qualifies inside the top 10, what is that? Plus 230? Right? Like it's not going to get cut in fifths. He's not going to go from 5-1 to even.
Yeah, no, he's going to go from 5-1 to probably like 275, 325, something like that.
Yeah, like it's not going to get cut too dramatically. So I think
Where I think if he looks awesome, that 25-1 is all of a sudden like 8-1.
Yeah. Yeah, the top 10 market is really difficult to find value if you're not going for like a really good driver whose numbers seem off, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I don't think that exists, at least as of right now.
Yeah, most times they don't mess up with that.
All right. Matchups? Any matchups? Truex versus Bell, Blaney versus Brad. We got some Chastain versus Kyle Busch.
Bastards.
Should we just jump? I mean, it moved, but
yeah,
it's 140.
So Larson
plus 140 is not bad.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, you can get it, but at Superbook too. Blaney versus Hamlin. Kozlowski versus Hamlin. You can take Reddick over Truex minus 110.
No, I don't want to do that at this stage of the week because what if Truex does the same practice again? Then I'm getting plus money on Reddick.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh, good Lord. All right. So Superbook done effed up, man. I should drive there tonight just to place this bet.
This is the one I just added.
Let's see. Yep. So this is a bad omen, folks. Kyle and I both, without obviously you just watched it. Neither of us said anything, and we're both betting Ty Gibbs at plus 120 over Joey Logano. Oh,
it just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all. The Toyotas have been ridiculous, and Logano he gets finishes based on like manufactured track position, not because his car is good, not because like he's better than other cars on track, just because he.
And honestly, the way I'm betting Logano or way I'm betting Gibbs, I expect him to have. I'm betting him to win the race. I'm betting him to top Toyota. Maybe I should be taking shots on like a Logano or Elliott, in the world where Gibbs doesn't finish strongly. But I don't know. I can't get down on minus 140 when I can get plus 120 on the other side. I'm tempted to take the Elliott one too. I like Bowman over Buescher. I know it's not quite enough, but
I think for the number, I'll say the number.
I think they're basically the same guy. And so if you're giving me plus money on one side, and I'm tempted to take it, I haven't added it yet, but I'm adding Josh Berry over Kyle Busch. That's crazy.
So my other one is the one right below that. I'm going back to the well with Watermelon Man over Kyle Busch.
Well, yeah, and if you go over to here, it's minus 140 for that same bet. So that's why you shop it.
Yeah, like all right. Yeah, this is going to be a bad week, folks. I can already feel it.
Yeah. We're getting far too exposed this early in the week, but that's okay. When they're going to give us minus 110 on drivers that we love against Kyle Busch, I'm going to take it every time.
Yeah, because I don't care what anybody says about Kyle Busch's past or how good he is at a certain track.
He's just not good right now.
All of that shit is gone. Like the KFB in the 18 M&M's car, erase that from your memory. He is in a much different situation now, and you can just tell his demeanor after he got wrecked by Corey LaJoie. He was in full like, this effing sucks mode.
I honestly wonder if Austin Dillon isn't as bad of a driver as we think he is because of the car he drives every week. Because like KFB wasn't great when he was before switching to RCR, but he wasn't this mad of a train wreck. Like, this is a train wreck situation. Literally
this
every
is
week, if
bad.
everything doesn't go perfect, he's 28th to 30th every week.
Yeah, there is
That's not good.
something wrong there for sure.
All right. Anything else for this week's race you want to look into, or should we recap the card and then take a look at championships before we get out of here?
Well, let me also add Ty Gibbs and Joey Logano matchup is also on DK. Logano is minus 125 and Gibbs is minus 110. So that just goes to show you like the plus 120 is an absolute smash.
Yeah. I don't get it.
I'm suffering from severe FOMO right now, by the way, not being able to actually get down as much as I want to get down on this because I'm not there.
Yeah. Brian's chugging some energy drinks after this podcast and driving to Vegas.
I'm telling the wife I'm going. I'm leaving.
I'm out of here. Not coming back. I'm bringing my Xbox and playing college football for a
man.
week and firing bets. All right. So I have Ty Gibbs at 18. I have Chase Briscoe to win at 200 because it's 200. Briscoe to top Ford, I think is what that's supposed to be at 70. I have Gibbs, and those are like I bet not even a quarter of a unit on both the Briscoe bets, just for little info. I have Gibbs the top Toyota at 750. I have Gibbs over Logano at plus 120. Barry over Kyle Busch at minus 110, and Ross over Kyle Busch at minus 110. Brian has Reddick because, of course, he does. Toyota to win the race at plus 135. I like that. I think that number could be minus 105, minus 110, kind of like what we saw last week, maybe even a little worse, depending on how Truex and all those guys look. The fact that we are back on Gibbs and Reddick again, we think Christopher Bell can do it. Like, I know they have a smaller pool of drivers, but they feel like they bring 5 or 6 guys every single week that are very, very strong contenders for every race. So,
yeah. Whereas, like, just real quick too, like, whereas Chevy, I think you can narrow down their possible winners, even though they're the largest stable in the sport, to maybe 3 to 5 guys, which as percentage wise, that's not great when you have so many more guys in the bow tie versus Toyota that's only running 8 cars, and yet they're bringing 5, 6 drivers that can potentially win.
Yeah, like it's not like some weeks they're like you get a Ross or a random win, but it feels like if you want to bet Chevy, just bet Hendrick and don't overthink it.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's on that as well. So those are our cards as they sit right now. Probably a little more overexposed than we'd like to be at this point, but if the books are going to give us value, we're going to take it.
And by the way, if I could, like, just for show purposes, I'm keeping this reasonable. But personally, if I was in Vegas right now and I saw that Gibbs plus 120, I'd probably be playing
a handful of units.
A lot.
We try and keep ourselves reined in here so we don't absolutely destroy the card within 5 minutes of starting.
Yeah.
Let's talk championship odds. So as we've talked about, Bell is a co-favorite. Denny's actually there now at Superbook with Larson. So these are kind of your 3 guys I hope you got exposure to. And then the next range, I think, is where we get interesting. So obviously Blaney has moved up pretty significantly. He's inside 10 to 1 there. Let's go over to Caesars to see what their odds look like. Future bets. Oh, championship winner. Here we go. So Bell, and then it's Hamlin, Larson, Blaney. Blaney is 750 over here. So he was probably like 12 or 14 most places. So that is interesting to see. Is there potential value on Blaney at 8, or do you?
I don't know. I think at that point you're so low, especially seeing not that his skills or his car is very good at a smaller selection of tracks, but that's almost what it feels like comparatively to the top of the board.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think you're better off waiting on Blaney until we get into the playoffs, because say the similar thing happens and he wrecks in the super speedway race, you're probably getting 10, 12 on him.
Yeah. Yeah, it just feels like, and it obviously, it also depends on what else you have. If you have Bell exposure at, the numbers that we kind of talked about, if you have some Larson or Hamlin or Byron, or you have some preseason stuff that you're kind of building your card out of,
Yeah.
it may not make sense to dive in. So I mean, I don't hate it if you love Blaney, but I'm probably going to sit out at least at this point.
And the fact that Joey Logano is priced with Tyler Reddick is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, Reddick at 15 is really nice.
Yeah, that's still a great number. I'd be betting that if I hadn't already jumped on.
Yeah, especially because he's 10 here. Is there any potential for Ty Gibbs, or is that like maybe, a couple
The
years?
way he's being priced on a week-to-week basis, I think 40 is nice because we've seen it numerous times now. Like, he has a car capable of winning.
Yeah.
And especially like at Phoenix, he was one of the best cars there.
Yeah, I might have to, especially if you can get that 40 for me, I might have you fire on that because he's 25 here.
I guess I am going
30.
to Vegas this week.
Oh, you're definitely going to Vegas. That wasn't ever the question.
Oh man.
Yeah.
My poor cars.
I think if you get it north of 30, it's worthwhile.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a bad bet.
Cool. Yeah, we just wanted to touch in on that. I think at this point, the market's settling in a good spot. Maybe as we get closer, if someone's not locked into the playoffs, but you think they could make some moves, like a Truex, like a Reddick, I guess Reddick's in, but there could be potential opportunities for sure. All right, Brian Twining, it was good to get back. It was good to review an incredible week at Pocono. Good to get ready for the Brickyard. We'll be back as we always are on Saturday in your feed Sunday morning, which will be nice. We'll have a lot of information from practice. We'll be able to pour through the data Friday night in between college football games. Get ready for qualifying on Saturday, and then we'll record as we always do. What time is qualifying? Because
I hope it's early. That is my favorite.
Yeah, because if we can get it in early, and we can record a little earlier and then get it out to the fine folks a little earlier. Just depending.
Qualifying is at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1:05 p.m. Eastern for everyone.
Let's go. So 10 o'clock our time. Yeah, maybe we could record around lunchtime and potentially drop it Saturday night before all the shenanigans. So we'll see what we can do for you fine folks. I do have a child, so that always throws a wrench in things. I also, life happens. So, but we will do our best to make that happen. You'll probably be seeing Brian's Las Vegas background as he is from his condo out there. I will always be here. For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you next time.